Hello again, Struck Co-op. Today I am bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3 Early Access, and this one is for the Railmaster class in a combination with the Electrode relic subclass. I decided to call it Chaotic Mayhem Railmaster Electrode build because it's focusing more on the combination of using the chaotic strikes with Egg of Mayhem to proc other relic attacks, as I think they're called. So it's pretty good because the damage can be very good if you stack bonuses to chaotic strikes from items with just two items, one giving me 15%, another giving me 13.5% damage to that, and maxing the skill out to level 10, it does 800% weapon damage. Combine that with whatever we get to proc off of the Egg of Mayhem, it's a very good setup. And mind you, that type of setup, the Mayhem, Egg of Mayhem setups can be done on any class with any relic, as long as you're using the appropriate skill. I decided to just try this one with a little bit of flying picks, a little bit of slamming and so on, because I'm waiting for some of the train car skills to get fixed on the test server. So I decided Slammer would be a good starting point. This would be interesting to play with a train, with some more stuff, but for now I think this is a very fun, very nice setup, and if you save your energy with enough energy cost reduction and with enough energy recharge rate, you can just spam this skill a bunch of times on a boss and just obliterate that boss with the Egg of Mayhem and with the chaotic strikes. Definitely a fun, strong build, and since I'm using something weird, something out of the box, using flying picks on a non-summoner build, on a non-bane build, maybe some of you would like it, maybe some of you would wanna remove the points from flying picks and just max out spike drive. In any case, I've got a few suggestions for you on the next segment with the skills, so hopefully you enjoy them. So regarding the skill points allocation, I've done something very weird. I'm going for a build that is using flying picks on a non-summoner, non-bane build. And it's weird, but I really loved it while leveling that up last night, so I decided to just give you a few options. One would be with flying picks, actually a few would be with flying picks intact, maxed out. And then I would provide some options, some setups, how you can remove those points and maybe spend them here. So bear with me, this might be a little bit longer because I'm gonna be giving you different examples. And first I want to notify you about a way of how I wanna do the relic skills. So I want this to be 5 and I want this to be 5, but I only have 3 points remaining, meaning I can get this to 5 and I can get this to 4. And then I'm gonna need one more point, and I found the perfect way to get that 1 point. Since right now I'm not using anything in conductor, a tough choice, flamethrower car, really useful for this build, and I think it would be better to actually get flamethrower car and maybe remove the pound points, because your main damage doesn't really come from slammer, it comes from chaotic strikes, so that energy recharge and generation rate probably would be better off, but more about that in a moment. So we need one more point. How do we get that 1 point, 1 skill point? Well, first you need to get rid of the cosmic helmet, or get a cosmic helmet that gives you +1 skill level to either of the skills we've swatted. If it's +1 to this or this or this or this, anything that's not 1 point would work well. Then another thing that you could get is +1 pound, +1 hammer spin, +1 busting charge, +1 lantern flash, flying picks, anything that's more than 1 point invested into. So you can remove that 1 point from that skill and put it into this one or this one, wherever you want to put it. But yeah, I want this one to be level 5, this one to be level 5, this one to be level 10, 5, 5, 1, 1. The main source of damage is this. You can see it's at 800% weapon damage, but that's because I've got 15% here and 13.5% here. Right now you see it's 638% weapon damage. So just look at the big boost I'm getting. I mean, I've got a better two-handed weapon to use with more damage, but I'm using this one because it's stacking up. Just look at that now. I'm experimenting. See, this is 725, so I'm getting like 75 from those 30.5%. So definitely something worth building around the chaotic strikes. So now let's talk about how you might want to rework the skills quickly. First of all, I think there's many ways how you can play it with the relic, but I'm gonna stay away from changing too many things in the relic. I'm gonna tell you how you could rework certain things on this side. First, you could remove all those 8 points and then put 7 more points here, and then you wouldn't even need to do that switching with the helmet, because you would have that one extra spare point. Why I'm keeping Spike Drive as level 1 and not removing that 1 point and just getting that point into the passive, because Spike Drive swows. And it's super easy way to swow them, and swowing them would proc this bonus, which brings us to Lantern Flash. Why I use Lantern Flash? I don't have to use it. I can just use the passive. I don't have to slot it in my skill bar. So if you don't want to slot it in the skill bar, it's a must-have to get the tier 2 bonus. 65% damage versus stunned, blinded or swowed. You swow the enemies with this. You can stun enemies with this. You can blind them with this one as well, but the swow is the one that lasts the longest, 6 seconds. So if you use this, then you have 6 seconds to do other things and get those other things to do more damage, such as, for example, chaotic strikes. Level 4 blasting charge is great if you don't want that extra 20% damage reduction, but I think you should want it, especially if you're planning on playing ridiculous and pushing further in the Fazir dungeon. This is a great skill, even if you just keep it as a 1 pointer, which would give you the tier 3 bonus with extra 2 levels. That's 30% additional damage. 30% from here, 65% from here. The enemies are already taking 95% damage after you do this skill and this skill at the start. So yeah, you could probably lead in with Blasting Charge and do Spike Drive, or lead in with Lantern Flash, then do Blasting Charge, then do Spike Drive. This one maxed out for the 50% damage reduction shield. If you use this skill and hit an enemy, you max out the damage reduction to 70% from the fighter spirit, and that extra 50% gives you the limit. You hit the cap at 90% damage reduction with that 50%. You're not using all 50%, but you're using 20% out of it to reach the cap of 90% damage reduction. This one only for the slammer skill damage, no other reason to take it. You may not want to even use it in your build if you want. The way I play it is I play it with flying picks, so I try not to use my endurance as much, so I can proc as many spirits as I can. Which would mean someone might want to remove the pound from their skill bar. So as I said, flamethrower car would be great. And one way to get it is to get rid of this 20% slammer skill damage, which can stack, by the way, with things like this slammer skill damage. So you get rid of it, and then you put those 4 points in flamethrower car, and then you know that your slammer skills are not gonna be as strong, but your chaotic strikes would be ready for reuse much more often. And things like I would talk later in the gear segment, but things like energy recharge rate or energy regeneration are definitely great. Energy cost reduction, amazing for the build. So I only have this as 1 pointer and only have this as 1 pointer. I think it's okay the way it is, because this I'm only gonna be using as bursts on big groups of enemies with elites and champions of other types, or on bosses. This one I also kind of save and don't use it until I really need that 25% damage. So mostly on boss fights is when I'm gonna use this and then start spamming chaotic strikes. So I would lead in with maybe Lantern Flash, Blasting Charge, Spike Drive, pop those 2 and then start spamming chaotic strikes, and then things die. There's other ways to do it, but I think right now this is how the build can be. You could even put 4 points into crit chance for slammer skills. I was leveling with this one, but then I realized it's better to just remove the points and put them elsewhere, so I spend those points here and here. Because I realized that contrary to my expectations, the slammer damage is not the main damage of the build, and it ended up being a Mayhem build, Egg of Mayhem build. So yeah, I think that's kind of some options on your screen. You should have seen a few different ways to make that build, so hopefully it helps you. Hopefully you realize what each build is supposed to be. Now next, let's talk about the Legendarium. Here's the Stinging Wing for the Flying Pigs. If you're not using the Flying Pigs, remove it. Something that is really great to use, and I wouldn't mind suggesting to anyone to try it, would be this Blast Breaker and the Berserk Crusher. I would say Blast Breaker would be more important, because that means when you're using Blasting Charge, you're not gonna use Endurance, which means you can use Flying Pigs more often, because you're not gonna accidentally use up your Endurance by using Blasting Charge. Centrifugal Demolisher, it's great, it gives you additional charge, it gives you shorter cooldown for Hammer Spin. I think this is fine until you get Blast Breaker or Berserk Crusher. I think ideally I would have Stinging Wing, Blast Breaker and Egg of Mayhem. This would be my ideal combo for the Stinging Wing Flying Pigs version. If I'm not using the Flying Pigs version, my ideal combo would be Egg of Mayhem, Blast Breaker and maybe either Berserk Crusher or Centrifugal Demolisher, depending on the playstyle I'm going after. And there's other things to consider. If you decide to go for a Ghost Train setup, you could probably get that Phantom Buffer, but I would suggest stay away from that until you do like a Bane build. Other things I would suggest not to go for, but something that's worth mentioning if you really want that extra survivability, even though this build already has so much survivability, you could go for a Skittering Shoulder for extra empowering zone. But again, this doesn't work for this build very well, because you already have so much damage reduction. Skittering Shoulder might be a little bit of an overkill, and you're better off saving your 1000-volt bursts for bosses, to not use them every now and then. But yeah, that's it for the Legendarium. Now, when it comes to the pet skills, I kind of use the Stun, because it's obvious synergy for the build with extra damage to stun. I use the Healing Friendship, the Battle Cry and Deadlier Strikes. If you're playing with others in a group, you can replace Deadlier Strikes. If another teammate has it, you can get a different aura. Keep in mind, you cannot stack the same aura twice, but you can stack all 4 auras if all 4 people in the team are using a different one, which is this, and this. That's the 4 auras. I think this is flexible. You can replace Battle Cry with whatever, but I strongly suggest having Healing Friendship and Screeching Stun and Deadlier Strikes when soloing. So next, let's show you the segment about the gear I suggest using, my perfect suggested items for each SWAT, and the stats that you could go for. Here we are at the gear segment. You might have noticed already that I'm using only 3 legendary items, and that's for a reason. I only want the Cosmic Breastplate for the skill levels to Slammer skills, and I want those 2 levels. That means I'm kind of supposed to get 2 more Cosmic pieces, and the ideal setup would be the shoulders, the breastplate and the pants, so that we can get a helmet with +1 skill levels to a specific skill that we use, such as any of the skills that we have more than 1 point. This one, this one, this one, this one, or this one would work, as well as any of those 5 here would work. Or if you are not going for Flying Pigs, but rather put more points than 1 in Spike Drive, you can get something with +1 to Spike Drive. Basically what you want is a helmet that gives you +1 skill level to to a skill that you have more than 1 point invested. So you can remove that 1 point and then spend it, as I said, in the skill segment over here. So you can have this at level 5 and this at level 5. Now, after we've gotten this out of the way again, let's talk about why the shoulders, chest and legs, or shoulders, chest and helmet, and not the gauntlets and boots. Well, just look at the bonuses on the gauntlets and boots. Let's show you. The gauntlets and boots. This is the boots. Basic attack stuff. I mean, if you start using basic attacks instead of pound, maybe it could work, but I don't think it's advisable. Train stuff, cosmic gauntlets. Well, it's not for this build, and that by itself should be enough to tell you why. So you want blue gauntlets, blue boots, and blue weapons, and blue helmet and legendary legs, or legendary helmet and blue legs. On blue legs you can get things like flat electric or other type of damage, and you can also get percent to a specific damage. If you're lucky, you can get 2 times flat or 2 times percent or flat and percent. I've gotten things like those. On the boots I've already seen percent damage being added. I'm not sure whether the flat can roll, but probably it can. Then on gauntlets you can get things like shock bolts, additional bolts fired on shock. This is pretty great. If you have a weapon with chance to slow, chance to shock, something like extra damage to chaotic strikes is great on any piece of equipment. You can see my boots has this and this one has it, and that's such a big boost for that build, extra damage with chaotic strikes. This is probably one of the top priority things to look forward to. So other things you can see, this is probably a bug, crit chance versus poison targets at the top. Other things you can look after are chance to evade damage, relic energy generation, energy cost reduction. I don't think I've got it to show you, but energy cost reduction, you can get that one. Then block chance now can roll on certain armor items, so you can keep that in mind. Then health, defense, definitely good things. Crit chance, crit damage. Crit damage is capped at 300, so don't go over 300 crit damage. Then things like health regen I would stay away from, but things like gear work are not bad. But keep in mind the max gear work is 100, so if a map gives you 50, you don't need more than 50 on yourself. So this is the energy cost, you can see it right now, there we go. So energy cost reduction is one of the best things you can get for this build, so you can spam as much chaotic strikes as you can. See, if you get this under 10, that means you can do it more than 10 times with a full energy bar. Which is so much damage coming just by you spamming this skill. So there's damage with slammer skills, great thing to consider, and you can stack it from multiple sources. Chance to slow, one of the best things you can get for a weapon offhand. You could either go for a two-handed weapon or for a one-handed and offhand. Just make sure that you get, if you can, chance to slow, but you don't have to go for chance to slow if you're using this thing, because you can slow with that. But if you want to get rid of that 1 point and not use spike drive, you can definitely try and get chance to slow on your weapon and offhand or offhand, depending how lucky you are. But yeah, damage with chaotic strikes, crit chance, crit damage, flat damages, percent damages, HP, defenses, etc. Many good bonuses, evasion, block chance. There's good things. Hopefully everything I mentioned is clear. For the pet, there's the Dryad neckband. The best in slot item for the pet would be, I say, Dryad neckband combined with probably rapid bartering, so you can sell quicker, and then the rest is just optional, whatever you wanna get. I think this one is not bad, invigoration, but some people might wanna go for more other stuff like damage and things like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it regarding the gear. Next you're gonna see some more gameplay, and I'm gonna talk about different ways I rotate the build. So here we are at this segment where I show you a little bit more gameplay of the build and talk about how I use my skills, in what succession I rotate them. First of all, I would like to say there's a few ways you can start. First, you can start with Spike Drive to slow the enemies and then do a Dynamite to make them take more damage, or you can reverse them and start with the Dynamite, then the Spike Drive, or you can even start with Lantern Flash to bind them, which would also make them take more damage from the Dynamite, which could be next, or from the Slow, which could be next. So in any case, those 3 skills you might want to use, or at least 2 of them. Even if you don't use Lantern Flash to bind them, it's fine, even if you just remove it from your skill bar and use it for the passive. You want to slow them to make them take more damage, and you want to make them vulnerable to take even more damage. After that, what you decide to do as a follow-up is up to you. You can do Pound, you can do Flying Picks, you can do Chaotic Strikes. In any case, if it's a boss, you really want to lead in with the vulnerability and slow, and then do Chaotic Strike spamming on the boss after reminder after using the E and R skills, which in my case are the 1000-volt burster big relic activation skill, which you need to spend 200 energy on other skills before you can use, and then the other one is Localized Storm, which gives you and your teammates 25% extra damage and some movement speed bonus. So once you activate those after applying vulnerability and slow on the boss, you can immediately start spamming Chaotic Strikes, and that would melt many bosses, as long as you don't get one shot or two shot while doing so. So be careful. Even though you do a lot of damage, you can still be kind of squishy, and this is why I suggest maybe using the spin and hammer spin to give yourself that extra shield. So instead of 70% damage reduction, you would be with that shield that you see right now, the bubble, that gives you another 20%. I mean, it gives you 50, but since the limit is 90, you get that extra 20% more. But yeah, I hope it's clear how to play the build and rotate it, and that it was useful to you. So this pretty much sums up the build. If you'd like to get notified when I upload more content, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss the content update notifications. The content you would expect to see on my channel is builds and guides and info news videos, as well as other type of content for wooters of all sorts, RPGs, ARPGs, tactical RPGs, shooter wooters, and other things in between. Thanks for watching, keep it cool, Struck Up, and until next time.